Welcome back to CNN's special live coverage of Donald Trump's hush money trial. A notable update for you as the jury has just left the courtroom and returned to the jury room. That is where they do all of their deliberations behind closed doors. They were inside the courtroom to hear back from court reporters who were reading aloud key portions of the testimony that they had questions about. We don't know if it was one juror, several, or all of them that wanted to hear all of this. A note was passed to the judge. 3 notes, actually, asking for portions of the jury instructions to be read back, as well as key parts of David Pecker and Michael Cohen's testimony. And we are doing a lot of tea leaf reading with what this means of what the jury is saying behind closed doors and where they are in these deliberations. I should note Judge Merchan has just left the bench. Here to help us sort through that is trial and jury consultant Carolyn Koch. And Carolyn, it's great to have you because obviously we have so many questions about what this could mean, what the jury is asking about. What does it say to you that they wanted to hear, one, some of these instructions, and also key parts of David Pecker and Michael Cohen's testimony about that same meeting at Trump Tower in August of 2015?
Well, I agree with what you're all saying about we're all just reading the tea leaves and the jurors are going in sequential order. If I am going to read the tea leaves and I'm the defense, I would be a little concerned because they're out of the gate. They're not looking for reasonable doubt evidence. I would be paranoid about that. Of course, it's just the second day or the first day that they ask the questions. And so if those are the only questions that are asked, that would be concerning. I do think this jury is smart enough to know that all eyes are on them. So I would think that they will ask questions consistently throughout. And I think reading the tea leaves might get a little easier depending on the themes of those questions.
When you say that if you were on the defense, you might be a little paranoid, what do you mean?
Well, there's 2 ways to go about this case. And if you've, in a way, what makes this case very unique is that the jury could acquit or convict, and both routes are really simple. Because on the prosecution side, the theory is quite simple. They had a plan. They executed the plan. There were bumps in the plan, but ultimately Trump reimburses the jury. So if the jury comes out of the gate asking questions, not looking for the reasonable doubt aspects of the claim, but looking for the corroboration aspects of the claim, that would worry me. If I was sitting in the hot seat, that would worry me.
Yeah. And just to note, we just saw Donald Trump leave the courtroom with his legal team and his entourage that has been joining him inside the courthouse the last several days. He's not actually leaving the courthouse, though, because he is required to stay here in case the jury sends down another note or potentially a verdict. And Carolyn, though, what I was thinking about is they were reading back David Pecker's testimony. There were some key moments in that. But it also shows you the importance of objections here, because when you're listening to that testimony inside the courtroom and Trump's attorney objects to where the prosecution is taking this case or vice versa, it doesn't seem to make a difference in the moment because the jury still heard it, they were still there and present for it. But when they're asking to have it reread to them 6 weeks later, obviously those questions and those answers aren't included in the readback. So moments that may have actually happened in real time, they're not having their memory refreshed on that because it's not in the record.
And that's a good point. And the other thing that's, everybody's talking about, these jurors are able to take notes. And one thing I've noticed in my professional career is that sometimes the most copious note taker then becomes the most persuasive juror in the jury room, and the jurors almost defer to that person as having their own transcript of what happened in real time. And so for the sake of time, the jury, the behind closed doors, those jurors are going to remind each other of the facts and corroborate those facts with their own notes. And so that's going to be a big piece of what's going on, that nobody is going to be able to speculate or read those particular tea leaves. But there's some truisms about juries, and they're usually true, even though this is no ordinary case. But jurors almost always simplify. They want to come up with the simplest solution to a complex scenario, and it usually makes sense. and they really want to follow the rules. So the rules that the judge sets forth for them to follow, for the most part, they're going to follow those. And then everybody talks about, there could very easily be a holdout. It's very hard in real life for jurors to be that holdout. So again, I think this jury is going to be conscious of the need to have some consensus, and I think they're going to work hard towards that goal on their own without having to be, beaten over the head with instructions.
Carolyn, though, what you just said was so interesting, that the juror who's taking notes, if there's one who takes copious amounts of notes, that the others will kind of rely on that person when they are back inside that room, because as soon as the judge started rereading the instructions, we did see at least one juror, based on our reporters inside the courtroom, begin taking notes. And so are you saying that you often see them kind of turn to them and kind of trust them, since they're the ones who actually wrote down what the judge was repeating?
Well, jury dynamics are really interesting. And that's another truism. Out of 12 people, you're not going to have equal participation amongst all 12. And so I've just, the note taker is the person who usually has a lot of interest in keeping track as accurately as possible. But the other reality of the jury system, and all humans make decisions this way, people pick and choose what's important to them. And in this case, there are ample examples of reasonable doubt, and there are other examples that would help support conviction. And so I think that's what makes this case so scary for both sides here is, Michael Cohen is kind of like, if you compare to the OJ case where you had that DNA, you'd think DNA was really strong enough to sway the jury, and it wasn't. Michael Cohen's lies, these are no ordinary lies, and jurors don't see liars like this in their daily affairs. But his lies might not be the embodiment of reasonable doubt. And again, we'll see.
Yeah, we shall see. The copious notes, it sounds like my chemistry class from freshman year of college. We were always relying on the one person who was paying close attention. Carolyn Koch, thank you for sharing some insight on what it's like inside that jury room.
Welcome.
And stay with us, because we are now continuing to monitor this as 7 men and 5 women are back inside that jury room. We are now about 6.5 hours, roughly, of these deliberations since the jury got the case from Judge Merchan. We are following every moment, waiting to see if that buzzer goes off inside that courtroom again. This is CNN's special live coverage.